So Netflix has taken a few risks before with some unique projects like Black Mirror Bandersnatch and that Bear Grylls Choose Your Own Adventure where the goal is to try and kill the survivalist. Well, now the streamer has brought us Kaleidoscope. It's an anthology tale about a huge heist, but the catch is everybody is going to watch it play out in a different order. This is certainly gimmicky, but does it work? Spanning 24 years, this centers around the largest heist ever attempted, and the vengeance, scheming, loyalties, and betrayals that surround it. It's loosely inspired by the real-life story where $70 billion in bonds went missing in downtown Manhattan during Hurricane Sandy. So first, I wanted to tell you the order in which I watch these. Well, I don't think it matters too much. There were some progressions in my viewing that I thought did accentuate the story, and then others that hindered the storytelling. So like everybody, I started with Black, which is basically just the intro on how the whole thing works. Then I watched Green, Yellow, Orange, Blue, Violet, Red, Pink, and finally White. Now I'll put those on the screen for a bit in case you even care, but again, I'm not sure all of the order actually matters. Giancarlo Esposito is the lead in this, but it's an ensemble cast made up of Rufus Sewell, Paz Vega, Tati Gabrielle, Jai Courtney, Peter Mark Kendall, Rosaline Elbay, and Nuisha Noor. Now, no matter what order you watch this in, it's going to play out a ton like an Ocean's movie. We got the voiceover that describes the plan while the actors go about their duties, which is then showing us exactly what to expect. And there are schemes to get the items, and then most of the players, they have some sort of criminal past. There are also some parts that feel like they were borrowed directly from a Mission Impossible movie. Now, while this isn't a huge negative for the story, the lack of originality, it is kind of a bummer. Now, I really enjoy some of the story as we dive into character backgrounds, and there's one sequence in particular that gives us massive insight into Esposito's character of Ray. Now, through this, we learn of the motivations and what's driving his core. And while he's a bad guy in this story, he's also incredibly charismatic, and also intimidating too. Now, I enjoyed his presence as well as how he's dynamic with the rest of the cast. Now, there are some very odd character choices in this. The behaviors of a few make them utterly annoying, and while for one character it totally makes sense and is useful for the story, the other seems counterproductive to the narrative that this is all trying to tell. Jai Courtney is an absolute D-bag. I mean, there is nothing nice, redeeming, or good about the character of Bob, and it really makes you wonder why he's part of the group. The dude is just a walking and talking problem, yet the group does nothing to really get rid of him. Courtney was masterful at creating such a despicable persona. He is off-putting in just about every way imaginable. Then there's an FBI agent played by Nuisha Noor, and everything that the story gives us, it feels like she's meant to be a sympathetic character. They establish some shortcomings and give her a redemption arc, but the direction that she's given for her character, it makes her a horrendous person and somebody who rubs literally everybody the wrong way. There's nothing redeeming about her personality, and every time she was on screen, I wanted bad things to happen to her. Now, I wanted the same things for Bob, but he's supposed to be a trash human. And this was just a very odd storytelling choice, and I couldn't wrap my head around it at all. Now, from a technical perspective, this is a great-looking production. They built sets that are intricate and impressively detailed. The cinematography is beautiful, and the action sequences, they're choreographed well too. But the biggest issue with this series is that the story, for as engaging as some parts are, it still comes across very gimmicky, where the execution actually harms some of the flow of the tale. Because of the order I watch these in, some things that are meant to be shocking or surprising at the end, they weren't, because I had already seen that info before my last episode. And I think some of the middle ones for me, they could be interchangeable, and they work just fine. Although for the most part, I kind of did like the order that I saw it in, as the majority built up character moments and then allowed me to connect with them in ways that felt natural. Now, there are still huge issues that I have. Even with the resolutions, we get some final scenes with a couple of characters, and they're not too satisfying because the actions, they feel rushed and almost without context. There are also moments of over-exposition, where characters explain in painful detail all their backstory or information. It got to be too much at points, and while it didn't happen with every character or all the time, it was definitely a weak point in the presentation. And I still don't know if that's as a result of maybe just the unordered sequence, and maybe it wouldn't have come across as so painful or unnecessary had I seen a different ordering. Now, outside of the initial Black episode, these are all varied in length, and they're about 40-ish minutes each on average, so it's not really a terrible long binge session. Now, this ended up being a complete mixed bag for me. The concept is cool and it's certainly unique, but some of the storytelling decisions, they just didn't enhance the narrative, and they actually really detracted from some of the punch of the story elements. The cast does a great job, and despite some odd direction given to a few of the characters, they craft very vibrant and dynamic people who are sometimes sympathetic and other times just despicable. I applaud the creativity it took to craft this type of story, but unfortunately, it's not something I'd ever rewatch. So the watch in any order you want scenario is more gimmick than feature. I mean, at least with Bandersnatch, I could mildly influence the ending and get a different result. Here, nothing changes other than the order, and that can end up harming the experience more than helping it. There's sex, no nudity, a ton of profanity, and some very brutal violence. I give Kaleidoscope 2.5 out of 5 couches. So, what are you looking forward to seeing in 2023? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.